On Channel 4 now, Ray Gosling's beginning a new series on people whose behaviour was once considered to be socially unacceptable. Here on Granada, a similar verdict on others in The Cook Report.
Tonight, we're on the trail of a missing £100 million and 4 Sikh brothers who managed to get at least that much from job creation schemes, government grants and gullible banks. Now they're bankrupt for £30 million each, but still lead lives of luxury. The brothers' opulent lifestyle is centred on 3 homes worth £1 million in North London, all in their wives' or children's names, and in another home worth $500,000 in Los Angeles. But where is the rest of the missing money? When you try to ask, it's the wives who usually field the questions.
Could you tell me why he didn't turn up at his bankruptcy hearing today?
Sorry?
He lives here, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Outwardly, every deal the family did was made to look ultra-respectable. The innocent and the famous were often embroiled.
From His Royal Highness, the Prince of Wales, the following telegram. I was delighted to hear of your enterprising ventures on the occasion of opening of Intermagnetics UK Limited. I send you my very best wishes for the future and a warm welcome to Wales. Charles.
Prince Charles was welcoming a subsidiary of the international Agra Group, but that was before the venture collapsed and the promised 500 jobs failed to materialise. The group's founding father was Arjan Singh Anand. Gurcharan Singh Anand was the marketing expert, Rajinder Singh Anand the salesman, and Amarjit Singh Anand the smooth financial wizard who charmed the money from unsuspecting victims.
There are people in Singapore, the Gupta brothers, who are extremely angry with you. There are people in Finland who are angry with you. There are people in Wales who are angry with you. There are people here who are angry with you. Are you saying they're all wrong and you're right?
I'm not saying anybody's wrong, I'm right. What I'm saying is there have been certain circumstances. These circumstances were wrong. We've had bad luck.
Tell that to the likes of Philip Speed, now job hunting again because of the Anand's failure in Wrexham. Whilst they're in clover, although bankrupt for £30 million each, he's on the dole.
Unfortunately, I've had to abandon plans for buying my own council house. I'm still unemployed after 6 months. Money's getting tight.
I asked the manager what happened to me holiday money and the week's money I just worked for. And he said, well, you're like everybody else, you'll get nothing now.
I've lost about £3,000 out of pocket now.
So how do you feel about the Anands?
Very bitter.
Also bitter about working for or dealing with the money-hungry brothers are people like Mike Lanyon, former Director General of the Anand's French operation.
They'd hit on a scheme for using other people's money to make their own fortune. Using a high-tech, glamorous product like videotape, and the idea of building videotape factories in several different countries, they went round choosing unemployment disaster areas as the place they wanted to put up their plants. And this was an irresistible bait which governments, local authorities and banks simply could not resist. That's where the money was going to come from. And they were the chaps who, in the end, were going to finish up benefiting from it.
The Anands knew that the one thing governments in all countries fund without hesitation is job creation. Britain alone spends £1 billion every year, particularly in run-down mining and industrial areas like this, in North Wales. The then Secretary of State was very impressed with what the brothers claimed to offer.
I must pay a special word of tribute to a very special family, the Annan brothers, whose history really is an example to us all. I don't know if you know much about the Agra Corporation, but they have set up and developed a major businesses in various parts of the world, and this project here in Wrexham today is part of the tremendous new operation that they're creating in different parts of the world. We're delighted to have them.
But what Nicholas Edwards could have been expected to know was that the man reading the welcome telegram was an ex-jailbird, and that the family's business record was rather less than satisfactory. Only months earlier, Rajinder Singh Anand had finished a prison sentence imposed as a result of repeatedly selling counterfeit audio tape.
These people, by all accounts, have left a trail of death and destruction throughout the world. They're much too clever to commit major offences in any one country, but what intrigues me is what they do in between, how they shunt money around from country to country. Now, at the end of the day, I don't know, but at the end of the day, I may be led to believe that they are international fraudsters on quite a large scale.
The foundations of the Agra Empire were laid here in Dubai in 1979. The authorities now claim that one of the brothers obtained $40 million by false pretenses from several local banks.
We've been unable to film officially in Dubai. The activities of the Annans have been something of an embarrassment. Also embarrassed are 4 banks who lent them the money for their initial ventures. Wherever we've gone, pressure has been put on people to stop them from talking to us. We've been followed about by the police, who nevertheless describe the brothers as a bunch of crooks.
And so they've issued an arrest warrant for one of them, Amajit, charging fraud and false pretenses. They also request his extradition from any country in which he's arrested. When Amajit had to flee the city, the brothers abandoned Dubai, having already set up a new headquarters in Los Angeles. Their tentacles soon circled the globe: Wales, Singapore, France, India, Finland and Germany. In America, their senior executive was Jim Dimmock.
I think they were playing a game where somebody else had provided the stakes, so they had nothing to lose, and they just carried on playing it, because there was nothing to lose by turning the game around or throwing over the board. So carry on playing as long as somebody is backing you, and that's it.
The company the Annans bought and Jim Dimmock ran in Los Angeles was Intermagnetics America, Inc., which made the machinery to manufacture the videotape. The idea was to set up a string of factories around the world. They were to be joint ventures into which the Annans put little or no money of their own, preferring instead to contribute their share in know-how and machinery, which was vastly overvalued. The Annan brothers' first new factory was here in Wrexham. On the 9th of September 1982, there seemed to be reason for celebration in job-starved North Wales. A high-tech tape plant promising 500 jobs was about to open, backed by a £1 million handout from the Welsh office.
All of us have played our part, together with the Agra Group, and today we're proud to see the birth of our own Welsh element of this tremendous international corporation, Intermagnetics UK Limited.
Having first launched the Wrexham factory, the brothers then turned their attention to a similarly job-starved area in France, Besançon. There they got $3 million in state aid from a government-owned firm called Rhône-Poulenc.
The Besançon plant was making videotape, half-inch videotape in great rolls, bulk videotape, and selling it into what was then quite a good European market, very largely German. But the money-earning end of that game is selling video cassettes. So the Annan project all along was to make cassettes and tape and load them. And there was going to be a cassette plant alongside or in the same territory as each of their tape plants, because they did this all over the place. They were doing it in Wales, France, United States, Singapore, Canada, which never happened. But I mean, they were doing it in a number of places, which made it very exciting.
However, Intermagnetics France folded after only 18 months of spasmodic production. The Annans didn't bat an eyelid. They were already developing another state-aided venture in France in an area of even higher unemployment at Montluçon.
This was very attractive, of course, to the Annans, because here was state finance, here was job creation finance, here they were looking like white knights in turbans, and we're going to do the thing all over again. We even had an extraordinary moment when President Mitterrand arrived in a helicopter in Montluçon and announced to a jubilant crowd that after all the false starts and delays, anti-cassette was actually going to happen. I mean, you could have bowled me over. I was standing about 5 yards away from him, but there he said it. He knew more than I did. The project to do the cassettes was centered then on Montluçon. By the time that the money came through, the Annans were in deep trouble everywhere and really backing out of all their projects. And it was really at that self-same moment that they said to Rhône-Poulenc, sorry boys, no more money, can't fulfill our commitments in Besançon or Montluçon or anywhere. But in the process, a very large gap had appeared in the funds. And at a conservative estimate, something like 22 million francs more went out of France than ever came into France.
And it went to the Annans?
It went to Dubai, to the Annans.
The money belonged to a Rhône-Poulenc subsidiary, Soprin. Director General Fred Setbon admits they were a very vulnerable target for the likes of the Annans.
The area of Montluçon was an area, a difficult one in terms of employment, and we were very willing to create employment in this area.
And one of the many who thought he had a permanent job was Patrick Amizet. He'd bought a new house on the strength of it, a house he's now about to lose.
Je fus très déçu
I was very disappointed.
Je fus très déçu au départ. Toutes mes espérances étaient basées un petit peu
All his hopes
là-dessus.
were dashed.
Bon, maintenant, je me trouve au chômage.
Now he's unemployed.
J'ai encore 8 mois pour trouver du travail.
He has
Sinon,
another 8 months of unemployment benefits.
je risque d'avoir des problèmes difficiles à résoudre.
Otherwise, he's going to have some problems, difficult problems to
Mais
resolve.
en définitive, je crois qu'on a évité le pire.
He thinks that
Du
the
fait
worst has been avoided.
l'escroquerie d'Atacassette
Perhaps it's better that the
sur le
crookery
site de Montluçon.
was discovered sooner rather than later.
A substantial sum of money has gone missing, hasn't it?
Yes, a substantial amount of money was missing.
So you've been misled, really?
Sure, sure. I hope that other countries will not be faced with the same problem.
The particular problem for Mike Lanyon was that in French law, he had become the prime suspect.
I was being accused of having helped them to help themselves to all the French funding. The French police didn't hang about. They asked me if I'd be sweet enough to pop by on my way home and answer a question or two. And it was a week before I saw the light of day again, while they dashed off and ransacked my house to see what they could find in the way of incriminating papers. All this after 48 hours interrogation in a police station, sleeping on benches and eating dry bread. And whatever else may happen to these brothers, they owe me 7 days in the slammer.
The manufacturing plant was never taken out of its crates and was eventually sold for 1/10 of its purchase price.
It came in, sat around for a hell of a long time. We couldn't afford to pay the customs duty on it. The customs very sweetly took it back under their wing. And then the receiver, who in France is a public official and not an appointed accountant or whatever, sold it to Americans who had provided it. Curiously enough, because I know you're going to ask, the company they sold it back to had at one time, and may even then have been associated with the Annans.
Associating with the Annans can be expensive. They moved on to Singapore in 1983 to go into partnership with a group of local investors. The new company never made it, and their would-be partners lost $8 million. On to Finland, and a complicated scheme to buy equipment to make TV tubes and ship it to India. The cost of the equipment was $2 million, but they succeeded in persuading 2 banks to put up nearly $9 million to buy it. They also arranged to sell the same equipment to 2 different customers.
We were really counting on that project, that if that would have come up, maybe, you know, you are not here asking me this question.
But they say the whole project, the banks say the whole project was based on false paperwork and false promises.
No, that's not true at all.
But are you saying that everybody else is lying and only you 4 brothers are telling the truth?
I'm not saying anything like that.
But what are you saying?
Well, because the things which you are mentioning, most of it seems to me lie.
You're saying most of them are lying?
Yes.
But the banks didn't think so. Fraud, they told the courts. The Annans were trying to get their hands on the money without delivering any goods at all. Things were now going badly wrong. The main intermagnetics company in America was in deep trouble.
I had advised them, having consulted an American bankruptcy attorney, that the best thing to do would be to file for Chapter 11, or voluntary receivership, as it were. This proposal was turned down by Arjun Singh Anand on the basis that it was a dishonorable thing to do, and his family couldn't entertain such a proposal.
But they did go bust, so what were they playing at?
In retrospect, that there was a bigger, more remote game being played, and the operations themselves were just pawns in the big game.
When the American parent company went bust, its assets were sold at a knockdown price to one of the Annans' oldest business associates, who changed the name from Intermagnetics to 3D Media. By December of 1986, bankruptcy receiving orders had been served against 3 of the brothers for more than £30 million each. The Wrexham plant here had collapsed, owing £6 million, and like hundreds of others before him in Singapore, the United States, France and India, Michael White was out of a job again.
I had to sell my own house at a loss. All the furniture, wedding called off. I was about £3,000 out of pocket.
So what do you think of the Annans?
I think they should be locked up.
I've had to sell the car. I've got 4 children and 1 on the way. And we're struggling to get by now.
Which certainly isn't the case with the Annan brothers, whose lifestyle in London and Los Angeles hasn't changed. What has changed is the ownership of the family's assets, which is now mostly in their wives' names.
I don't want to talk to you.
Why not?
No.
You are a director of ASM Cassetten, and you actually have a controlling interest, don't you? And I'd like to speak to you and your husband about Agra. Why not?
I have no interest in Agra. I don't know who Agra is.
Of course you do. It's your husband. And you also have a controlling interest in...
Don't all the family hide behind their wives?
It's not true.
Well, it certainly keeps the law's hands off assets,
No, it's
doesn't
not
it?
true. It's not true.
But the Annans' assets are now legally beyond the reach of their many creditors. In any case, as bankrupts, they're not supposed to have any assets, nor to be in business on their own account.
It would appear that the Annans have, certainly through close business acquaintances anyway, got back into business in the United States. It looks very much as though a similar thing has happened in North Wales in the last few weeks. I'm led to believe that they are setting up a project in Berlin at the present time to do either all or part of what they've done in other places. Some of them are still active under their own names, busying away with video cassettes on continental Europe. The astounding thing is that they don't ever seem to get caught.
For example, Rajinder Singh Anand told his bankruptcy hearing in London he had almost no assets. But shortly afterwards, he paid £120,000 for a controlling interest in this German electronics firm. He already owned an expensive house in Hamburg, is now a director of another German videocassette firm, and, like his brothers, is always jetting around.
Hello, I'm looking for Rajinder Singh Anand.
Oh, he's not here, he's in London.
The brothers were attracted to Germany, particularly West Berlin, by the most generous government grants in Europe. In Berlin, Rajinder's wife holds the family's majority shareholding in another enterprise, ASM Video Cassettes. Arjan Singh works there as a consultant. He was adamant that the brothers were not to blame.
Nobody takes the blames. Since the projects were being carried over in different countries, we considered ourselves sitting in Dubai as just the investors who put certain money into business.
Well, the problem is,
shares.
But it's also been suggested, of course, that you never really used your own money. It was always other people's.
The banks today who are blaming us, they would not have gone with us for coming up with $30, $40 million without knowing that, yes, we have the money.
So you're saying the banks pulled the plugs on you?
Yes.
Next, we went to Los Angeles, once the center of the Annans Empire. The banks, now taking legal action here as well, argued they pulled the plugs for a good reason, that the money was obtained by false pretenses. Amajit was due to appear in court for his bankruptcy hearing in May, but he failed to do so. When he eventually did turn up, he was evasive and had difficulty giving straight answers to straight questions. It took us 3 months to pin him down. He seemed surprised we knew so much about his business affairs.
There seems to have been a string of disasters all the way around the world, doesn't there?
Well, there was a problem. Yes, certainly. We have gone through a lot of problems.
Well, people have accused you of being in Dubai. They accused you of being crooks. In France, they accused you of being cheats.
Mm-hmm. Well,
what's happened to all the money?
See, the business has been, we've had major losses in the business.
The suggestion is that the money has been pocketed.
Well,
salted away somewhere.
Everybody has his own opinion, but I have done nothing wrong.
The family keeps doing business, doesn't it?
There is no project in the family.
Well, what about Quartz Electronics, for example, in which one of your brothers has purchased a majority interest? He previously told his trustees in bankruptcy he had almost no money.
I'm sorry, I'm not aware of any such thing as that.
You're saying that you've all behaved honorably and honestly, are you?
That is perfectly right. We are business people, and we've whatever we've done honorably, and we're still, the only reason we're surviving is because we've done nothing wrong.
That's quite different to what everybody else says. Are you saying everybody else is wrong and out of step?
I'm not saying everybody is wrong, sir. What I'm trying to say is there have been certain circumstances, certain people are trying to shift blames. There are the banks involved, they've had problems, they've had management problems in Dubai, they're trying to find certain scapegoats, and I'm not going to be one of those.
Either you have been extremely clever or you've been monumentally incompetent. Which is it?
There has been so many successes and so many failures that you can't say that because I did not succeed in one, then I might be considered to be unlucky in one. But that failure is part of participating into the life. So failure or success, one has to take it.
It was either total incompetence on a grand scale, or a major scam, or, what is much more likely, a nasty blend of the two.
Are you a fit and proper person to run a major business, do you think?
Yes, well, I believe so. I don't know about others.
There probably isn't a great deal you can do about all the misery they've created. But certainly they should be brought to book on the financial side, and quickly, before they do it again.
I am a businessman. And I will be again going into the business.
With a record like that, and with courage like that, and drive and flair of that quality, this company will succeed.
Mr. Edwards, no longer in Parliament, declined to be interviewed. For the people of Wrexham, the Annans are now no more than a bad memory. The brothers are bankrupt for over £30 million each and officially have no assets. But they do still have a luxury lifestyle. And they keep doing business, while police forces in several countries try to catch up with them. In Montluçon, former local MP Albert Chaubard speaks for the Annan's army of jobless workers. He thought spending government money on job creation was a fine idea. So how does he feel now?
On s'est senti trahi, floué.
Betrayed, and there were promises that were made, and they just weren't kept. A lot of people expected to get work and nothing happened at all.
That's the last in the current series, but we'll be back later tonight with an update on what some of our programs have achieved.
In a moment, news of the effect on the authorities at home and abroad of the Cook Report series.
How can you be certain that the oil you give your engine is doing everything you expect of it, protecting every moving part, ensuring maximum performance every time? Here's a way. Make sure the oil is liquid engineering. Castrol GTX, fitted in your engine.
I saw things at 19 no one should see in a lifetime. 20 years later, I still see them.
NAM is the eyewitness account of the Vietnam experience, a war fought by soldiers whose average age was 19 in a nightmare jungle against a ruthless enemy. NAM strips away the propaganda to reveal the horror and the bravery, and explains why the world's most powerful military machine lost. NAM.
Say you, say me.
At British Telecom, we handle 70 million calls a day. From the smallest village to the busiest city, we're there. We bring together the busy, the lonely, the sad, the happy, the young and the old. We carry the news, both good and bad, momentous and trivial. A phone call is sometimes longed for, sometimes dreaded, but rarely ignored. As a company, we deal with technology of staggering complexity. But what we do is essentially simple.
Say you, say me.
Where distance divides, we unite.
Say it together, naturally.
British Telecom. It's you we answer to.
It's me. I know it's your hair now, but it's about next Friday.
It started. Britain's latest share offer is getting underway.
Yeah, well, you mixed it. Never mind who mixed it. Just keep the brush moving. Trouble with you. Yeah, well, if you spent a little more time trying to help us.
Good evening, 001. Hold short of runway 27, left at block 16.
Speedbird Concord 001, hold in block 60. Do you have a gate assignment?
Affirm 001, refueling your gauge.
Gracious.
It's the BP share offer. For an information pack and to reserve a prospectus, phone 0272 272 272. Look for the advertisements in the papers or call in at any BP service station.
Fill her up, mate.
It's Britain's biggest share offer. BP. Be part of it.
On ITV, Sunday at 10:15, Tales of the Unexpected.
I think we ought to phone the police, don't you? I was going to.
A missing child, a mystery man. The flypaper is a cautionary tale.
Never talk to strangers. That's a basic rule for girls of your age.
Looking for a 2p?
I'll scream.
Yeah, what is the matter?
Tales of the Unexpected, Sunday at 10:15 on ITV.
On Channel 4 now, the Tchaikovsky Prize-winning pianist Barry Douglas plays the Piano Concerto No. 1 by Brahms with the London Symphony Orchestra conducted by Myung-Won Chung at the Royal Festival Hall in London. Here on Granada, an update on the Cook Report.
Well, this is where it all began, at Puerto Banús on the Costa del Sol, playground of British criminals on the run. And it's a place where one day it began to rain umbrellas. Mr. Korsgaden, perhaps you'd like to... perhaps you would like to have another opportunity. John Korsgaden was relatively minor league amongst the 180 Britons on the run in Spain. He'd only absconded with £3 million of other people's money. He was outraged to be discovered living and still doing business under the alias Hadley. You have taken £3 million of other people's money. You are a crook who has escaped justice. You're only getting what you deserve. The Korsgadens are still living here in some style, behind a high screen they've erected since the programme. Meanwhile, their victims back in Britain are still paying the price. So, what has the Cook Report achieved? The answer is something and nothing. Remember our report on child pornography? The films which represent the ultimate in child abuse are too terrible to show more than the first few seconds. We traced producers, users and dealers in Britain and on the continent. This little girl was undressed and subjected to a horrifying series of sexual assaults. In that film, we exclusively revealed the existence of a group of paedophiles who used computers to contact each other to obtain child pornography.
I'm very interested in schoolgirls and very young girl material. Where can I get some?
Well, that service, I'm happy to say, has closed down. If you punch the number now, this is what you get.
After allegations on the Cook Report, I have decided to close the public messaging areas.
But for how long? Already a new number is being advertised. And of course, for Scotland Yard, the problem in dealing with child pornography has been lack of adequate resources. So has that changed?
The resources of the branch are expanding, but perhaps not fast enough, because the child pornography is quite a large problem, and to make a serious dent in it, we'd have to have almost double our squad.
What about the computer bulletin board that we gave you information about?
The computer bulletin board, we gave me information about two. Mr. Parker, who was the sort of chap in charge of one of them, in fact rang me up just after your programme and offered his services, and he provided us a list, which I'm sure that you haven't seen yet, but I'd be happy to provide it.
Yeah. Getting your own back. What about the other lists that we gave you from the United States?
Yes, the lists from the United States were interesting, but when we analysed them, in fact, some of the information was quite old. We knew that because several of the people had already been targeted, reported or arrested throughout the country, that was. Now, some of the information on the list was new to us, and we're always grateful for the new information, of course.
And we'll take action on it?
Yes, it's being looked at the moment.
Action is also being taken on this man. He offered to supply us with child pornography and was persuaded to burn it instead. To deal properly with the likes of Keith Fraser, Superintendent Donaldson would like more powers.
Perhaps a change in the legislation in this country. It's not an offence to possess, it's merely an offence to deal or take or distribute. And I think it should be an offence to actually possess. And there is no power of arrest for even dealing and I think there should be. Perhaps the politicians could apply their mind to that.
We followed the international child pornography trail to Amsterdam and to a dealer called Justin, who'd sold us a pornographic tape and told us how to smuggle it home.
My name's Roger Cook from Central Television. I'm here to ask you why you and your company are breaking the law in this country and conspiring to get others to break the law by supplying child pornography.
I don't know anything about it. I don't have it, sir.
Yes, you do, because we've actually acquired it from you.
When? In my shop?
In your shop, most definitely.
Don't know anything about it.
I'm afraid you're making a...
His boss from the Eric's chain of sex shops arrived and switched out the lights.
We're here because you're selling child pornography.
Listen, we don't do anything here.
Yes, you do.
Oh, yes. Throw it away.
I'm afraid you do.
You're here in my shop. Get out, or I call the police.
Do call the police. You're selling child pornography. Let go.
Our departure was encouraged by the strategic application of a billiard cue and a lighted cigar. Back in Spain for a real fight.
Sparring behind me is Gene Hatcher, who next Saturday challenges Lloyd Honeyghan for his world welterweight title. And someone else who fancied himself as a pugilist, when asked embarrassing questions about a small matter of a missing £26 million, was Clifford Sachs. All we wanted to do was have a civilized interview, that's all. No, seriously, that's all we...
Stop it! Look, you're doing make a fool of yourself.
It's a very silly thing to do, Mr. Sachs.
Sachs, who'd managed to stay in Spain, despite being wanted in Britain for his part in the Security Express robbery, may now be declared an undesirable alien and deported.
But the worst violence we dealt with in the series made Clifford Sachs and his ilk look like absolute beginners. Our program, Worse Than the Mafia, drew the quickest response.
These days, it's naive to think that the loyalist and Republican paramilitaries get their funds from collection boxes in sympathetic pubs and friends in America. Politics now takes a back seat to racketeering on a massive scale. Posing as British property developers with a fat contract in view, we staged a sting on a big-time extortionist from the UDA.
All right. Which one of you is Mr. Davis?
I'm John.
You said you were going to come on your own.
Yeah, but we're the same worry as you, huh? You're quite safe. Right?
I don't actually know who you are.
I'm Sayers.
Mr. Sayers?
Yes, that's my right name to it. So I don't want you to go to the police. What sort of money are you asking for?
Well, it could be as much as about $3.25 million.
The amount that we would be hoping to get from you, say about 9,000 per million.
9,000 per million.
Now, we're prepared to work with you. You haven't got the contract. And what we would say to you is, don't lose the contract.
You're not saying you're giving me a discount, are you?
Yes. Yes. Oh, that's what it makes to.
Why do we have to pay anything at all? What happens if we don't, in other words?
We couldn't answer that.
I think the impact of this programme in Northern Ireland has been absolutely tremendous. I don't think anything shown in the programme was not known by most of the people in Northern Ireland, but this is the first time that anyone's had the courage to say it, and I think it's that fact that has made the real impact on the people of Northern Ireland.
But will it do any good?
Yes, I think it will. Shortly after the programme, I was invited by the Northern Ireland office to come up and discuss with them the contents of the programme, and following that meeting, the Secretary of State has called for an emergency report on racketeering in Northern Ireland. I've no doubt that following that there will be increased powers for the police. Revenue officers may be brought in who have specialist expertise in investigating these things, and we will see legislation for the sequestration of the assets of people involved in racketeering and organisations involved in racketeering, and I think that should bring an abrupt end to racketeering.
So, those are some of the somethings we may have achieved. As for the nothings, well, there are sadly quite a few of them. For example, people like Ronnie Knight, wanted for the biggest cash robbery in Britain's history, are still living it up here in the sun. While back home, some of the people in our programs were living under the most appalling conditions. People like Connie and Brian, who featured in a program about the aftercare of mental patients released into the community. The program was called Who Cares? What sort of help did you have when you got out of hospital?
None. None at all.
Could you have done with it?
Of course.
Connie and her husband Brian have lived in this squalid room for 9 years. The policy of discharging long-term mental patients like them to be supported and cared for in the community is a grand idea, which on our evidence seems to have gone badly wrong. Lord Skelmersdale, the minister responsible for mental health, has written to us requesting details of the cases we uncovered. But it's plain that Connie's dreams will never be realized.
I tell you what I would like. I'd like to own a zoo. I'd like a nice big house and a nice big garden. And I'd keep as many cats and dogs as I wanted to and not have a human being near me, you know, small.
But that's not going to happen, is it?
No, it isn't, unfortunately. It's too late. But it isn't too late for me to still go on loving my husband.
We also examined the bizarre plight of 2 West Country families. They were convinced there was something very nasty in the air. We're at Churcham, near Gloucester.
It's been like a horrible nightmare, really.
I think the last count we had 53 fires up to date.
I think the worst of all were the fires, the flooding.
The Prices had endured 5 years of electrical fires, floods, exploding appliances, and the suspicion they'd done it all themselves. Similar problems led to similar suspicions falling on another family, the Pattermores, 50 miles away in Somerset. Both families passed a lie detector test, and Nigel Pattermore, who'd been arrested on suspicion of arson, was told his police bail had been lifted. We now know those families are not alone. So who done it? Constant low-flying aircraft over the affected houses prompted eminent scientists to say the most probable cause of the family's problems were military experiments to test ultra-high-powered stealth radars. According to ex-NASA scientist Dr. David Baker, the civilian consequences of using this military technology should concern us all.
The environment that is described here by the events seen and felt and experienced by real people in real situations is very similar to converting the whole of the British Isles into a microwave cooker.
So, for those beleaguered families, not much consolation. But on Ireland, Costa criminals and child pornography, positive action.
Well, that's about all from the Cook Report for this year. Thanks for all your letters. Who knows, the results of some of them might end up in next year's series. Till then, good night.